And I'll put it for you to Kevin Hollinbrake, MP, Shadow Secretary of State for Levelling Up Housing and Communities. Kevin, very good morning to you.
Morning, mate.
A lot of people saying it's not a very good morning when they read the detail of some of this stuff in the papers this morning. The Daily Mail says a reckless splurge we and our children will be paying for or paying off for years. I don't think any of Rachel Reeves' numbers add up. I'm not sure I believe any of them. The spending that she says she's going to get on with in terms of building houses, in terms of creating jobs, in terms of stopping people staying in hotels if they happen to be illegal migrants. I mean, none of it is anything other than a very sort of vague ambition, isn't it?
I think she's totally in denial. I watched her very carefully yesterday in the House, and she has this kind of glazed look on her face. And against all the obvious facts that are flying around, she seems to think everything's going swimmingly. I mean, she was so fortunate that the spending review was yesterday and not today. To stand up in front of the Commons after claiming constantly you got the fastest growing economy in the G7 when all we saw was actually a spike because of the potential US tariffs. And now we're seeing the economy contracting at 0.3%. What you get stuck in with this, what she has done, talking the economy down for 6 months, then whacking it with £25 billion a year tax rises for business alone, about another 50 billion in tax and borrowing for others, and the red tape coming down the track in terms of businesses who employ people. She's depressed the economy out of all recognition. Business confidence was +5 in June of last year. Today it's -60, according to the Institute of Directors.
Right.
Businesses, their confidence has dropped off a cliff in a way nobody's ever seen before, other than something like COVID. And that's all because of Rachel Reeves' policies and choices.
But the question, as I say, that I read from one of our listeners and viewers just then, how much damage is this going to actually create before it stops? And I mean, that is a question that people are beginning to worry about and ask about. Will the economy actually survive this? Will we end up going cap in hand to the IMF like we had to do in 1976? Are we actually heading towards that kind of a road?
Well, potentially. I mean, she's stuck now in a doom loop. If you increase taxes to generate revenue, and she knows that growth, she's right to say growth pays for everything, but she's increased taxes, which has depressed growth, which means you get less revenue in because businesses are paying less tax because they're not making as profit, and they're employing fewer people who are also paying less tax. So you have to increase taxes again to make up for what you've lost because of all the spending, particularly that she put in place yesterday. And so you get this doom loop of tax after tax, which depresses the economy further. And the only end point of that is a recession and potentially going with your begging bowl to somebody else to help to dig you out that mess, as Labour did, as you said, a few decades ago. So it really is not a pretty sight right now. And I've got to say, you've got a Chancellor and a Prime Minister that are totally out their depth.
Yeah, it would seem so. She's been doing the rounds this morning, Rachel Reeves, dressed in black rather appropriately, I think, after the performance yesterday. This is a clip from the BBC. This is when she was asked about asylum hotels and no longer putting migrants in them.
Hotels used for asylum seekers. You've said that will come to an end. Where will those people go, if not to hotels, and what will that cost?
We've said that we will reduce those costs by £1 billion, and we will get people out of those hotels in this Parliament. We have already massively uplifted the number of people who are being deported because we're processing the claims, and we are in this spending review and over the last year have put more money into processing those claims and also into the court system so that when people appeal we can have those cases done quickly and get people out of the country if they have no right to be here. We shouldn't be paying for asylum seekers to be in hotels.
Well, you'll just be paying for them to be in rented accommodation instead. I mean, that's the reality.
Wait a second. Not if we're deporting them, and we have massively stepped up deportations, and that's crucial. But we've also got to stop people coming into the country in the first place illegally, and that's why I invested yesterday.
And those numbers are up. The number of people coming in illegally on small boats are up.
Well, yesterday we put £250 million into the Border Security Command because we do need to take back control of our borders.
You don't know where to begin, really, Kevin. She's sort of deluding herself now, isn't she? I mean, she's saying Well, we're going to put people through the court system, which is already, broken. It doesn't work. You can't get a court case for love nor money within about 2 years. They're not going to ramp up the border security. What they're going to do, according to Angela Eagle, who's a minister in the Home Office, they're going to use old tower blocks and former student accommodation to put these people in, which is also going to cost us money.
Well, it's another doom loop. I mean, the scrap Rwanda, which we had to fight time and time, 132 times they tried to block us in the Lords on Rwanda and in the Commons. And Rwanda was working and it would have worked, but they scrapped it. And that legislation meant we could detain illegal migrants before deportation. Scrapped it. So that's more people now coming to the country because there's no deterrent. So you've seen about 25% uplift. So you've about probably 50,000 people coming over the channel this year. I admit that the processing asylum seekers more quickly. That means more of those people will be going into rented accommodation, just as the chap on the BBC was saying. Because she says they're deporting people. A tiny fraction of the people deported come on small boats. It's a complete lie. They're trying to con the public, hoodwink the public. The only way you deal with this problem is what we tried to do and put a deterrent in place. And almost even centre ground commentators are now saying this is the only way you can deal with this problem. Other countries are looking at this too. The trouble with Keir Starmer, he's too weak. He's too friendly with the legal profession, all those right-on people in North London who think, oh, it's terrible to have a deterrent, it's terrible to send people to Rwanda. He'd rather come into the country, process them more quickly. They become UK residents. They later remain. They're here permanently. Well, I think we're the soft touch of Europe in terms of this particular problem. And until we get a proper deterrent, this will keep happening and it'll get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, and I put this to another guest earlier on in the show. It was only a week or so ago that Keir Starmer said the French were going to change their tactics in the Channel. They were going to go into the water, into the shallows, and they were going to arrest people who were trying to get on boats. The Sun this morning has got a front page where they stood and witnessed a whole bunch of migrants clambering onto a dinghy, into several dinghies, and the French police stood by and did absolutely nothing, and actually said, well, we're not going to do anything because once they're in the water, it's too dangerous to try and stop them. So I don't know where Keir Starmer got the idea that they're going to be going into the water, because they're simply not.
Well, no, that's right, and that's not good enough, and we are paying the money to do that, and there's no way that we should be doing that if they're not going to act properly. I understand there was a rise in the number of boats they were stopping when we changed the deal, but it's still not good enough. But have you noticed that Keir Starmer seems to have dropped the phrase "smash the gang"?
Oh yeah.
Because I've not heard him say that for weeks now, because he knows in his heart that strategy would never work. We've been trying to smash the gangs in the drug sector for decades, of course. It's whack-a-mole. You obviously smash one, another one pops up because it's so lucrative. The only way you can deal with this problem is to have a deterrent. And that deterrent, unpalatable for some that it may sound, is a strategy of deportation, either back to their country or back to a place like Rwanda, which is obviously not why they want to leave their own country in the first place. They want to come to Britain because it's seen as a soft touch. Yeah. I'm sorry, we can't be that for the world.
No, we really can't. And I mean, I know the Tories will be getting the blame as well for this because it did happen under the Tory government. But, as you say, you had tried many times. I mean, I was saying this morning, listening to the roars of delight coming from the Labour benches when she's talking about deporting people, these are the same people, presumably, that were trying to stop every single thing that you tried to do.
Exactly right. I mean, it is shameless how they've tried to pretend that somehow they're on the side of British people in stopping these people coming over the Channel. And everybody knows. I mean, there's a great piece by Matthew Syed recently in the Times about this, not a right-wing commentator, who concludes, looked at this problem, has gone to Calais for a couple of days, met the people, and very sympathetic applied to some of those people coming over the Channel, as we all are, but nevertheless, we cannot be the solution to the world's problems. Yeah. And we cannot be that soft touch. The only way you can deal with this is through a deterrent. The only party that I think will try to do this in Parliament was the Conservative Party. We will try again if we can get back in power, and that's what we need to do.
Yeah. Kevin Hollingworth, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Shadow Secretary of State for Levelling Up Housing and Communities.